and I kind of, I'd settled in. That was my target, and I aimed low, and I got it. And it was again one of life's regrets, where actually, if I hadn't been so stubborn, I would have got a T. Well, I'd never got that, but I'd have got a T1.
I remember taking an aptitude test when I came early, good on it's simple, I don't know.
Right, good evening, ladies.
It wouldn't be here.
But you would, you could.
Autistic chemists.
Good evening. My name is Philip Hicks, and I'm chair for this meeting. And I welcome you all to the November the 1st, 2022 meeting of the Planning and Community Committee of Woodley Town Council. Woodley Town Council meetings are recorded. The recording streamed live and stored on the Town Council's YouTube channel. By virtue of attending the meeting, you consent to having your image and audio recorded for this purpose. If you do not wish for your image and audio to be recorded, then please do not stay for the meeting. Town Council is consulted by Wokingham Borough Council on planning applications within Woodley, but the final decision of approved or refused is taken by Wokingham Borough Council. We will notify Wokingham Borough Council of the committee views, which may include any comments and concerns expressed by members of the community affected by the application. If anyone has any comments to make on any of the planning applications, then you need to formally write or send an email to the Wokingham Borough Council Planning Department, as they will take the final decision on the application. For those in attendance, I understand we're not expecting a fire drill tonight, so if you do hear the fire alarm, please head to the nearest fire exit and congregate at the fire assembly point by the Oakwood Centre at the front of Woodward Park. Thank you. Before we start the meeting, can I ask everybody to consider a 1 minute silence in memory of Councillor Sam Rumani, who unfortunately passed about, what, 2 weeks ago, 10 days ago?
10 days.
10 days ago. We could do that, please. Thank you, everybody. Right, if we now move on to the agenda of the meeting. Thank you. Do you have any apologies?
Yes, we have apologies from councillors Soane, Sartorial and Bragg.
Okay. And do we have any declarations of interest? No declarations of interest? Okay. Thank you. Item 3 is the minutes of the Planning and Community Committee meeting held on the 4th of October. Starts on page 7. Any comments on any of those items? Can we take those as being read and accepted?
Thank you. I wasn't here.
Okay, thank you.
Wants to vote, yeah.
Sorry?
Wants to vote? No, it's fine. I'm fine with it. So.
If we can then move on to the current planning applications. Matthew's got some of them up on the screen. So the first one is 1 Crediton Close. It's a household application for first floor side extension, single story rear extension, changes to fenestration. My comments are it's a new full width rear extension, 5 meters deep. The existing side single story extension to be converted to 2-story and extended to meet the depth of the new extension. Corner plot, no neighbour on the field side of the property, a detached house. Comments I've received are no comment. Large corner plot, no objection, and no objection. Anybody want to make any comments on that one, or are we happy with that one? Okay, thank you. Number 2 is 222632, 4 Coppice Road. This is householder application for the proposed erection of a part single and part double story front, side and rear extension to existing dwelling, following loft conversion works, demolition of the existing garage. This semi is currently 3-bedroom. The application is to move to (7) bedrooms. There do not appear to be any plans on the portal for the loft conversion, with 5 bedrooms on the first floor. Numerous objections from neighbours about overdevelopment and the lack of parking. This appears to be an overdevelopment of the site and not in keeping with the surrounding properties. Parking is an obvious issue. Welcome anybody's comments.
I'll just clear up your question, Mark. The 2 extra bedrooms between the 5 and 7 were actually the loft conversion, and you can see there it's a 221834, I think is the loft conversion. So that's already happened, approved. So that's why they get to 7. And this is to do what, an extra 3, I think it is, isn't it?
They're going to
2, something like that. But that's just really clearing up the difference between 7 and 5.
because the existing drawings, the drawings they put in didn't actually show the loft conversion.
But they didn't need to, because that was dealt with by the earlier planning application.
So yeah, as an application, it should still have shown the existing.
Oh, okay.
That was my point. There's no drawings to show the existing.
Haven't finished doing it yet. I just think it's over. I think all 3 of us have said.
Yeah,
it's
I
over.
looked at it, yeah, that was one of the cut and dry ones, wasn't it? It was like, that's just too much. And also that in the Coppice Road near the shops, parking's gonna be an absolute nightmare, isn't it?
Very little parking on that site anyway. Is there?
Yeah, it's near the junction, the bus goes down there as well, isn't it? It's just over.
So, okay.
That should be an agreement, isn't it?
Strange, isn't it? So it's overdevelopment. What else would you like to say? Lack of parking.
I think the development encompasses everything.
Certainly lack of parking as well. Okay. Number 3 then is 10 Linden Road. Rear extension to allow the full size of one of the existing garages to be incorporated into the house. We've seen this several times recently, from what I can remember, and I think we've all been completely confused as to what is actually owned by the property and what appears to be common ground with some garages at the back. And certainly, I think the last application, was passed. This one appears to be pulling part of the garage into the house. They seem to have got two garages on the side. They seem to be moving some walls and things so they can actually bring one of those garages into the house.
And they are using amenity land as well, which I don't like, but. So my comments, by the way, I just pulled forward from the last time we had them.
I think we weren't sure whether the land was owned by the property or there was certainly some amenity land at the back, wasn't there? But we weren't. I wasn't sure if the amenity land was actually part and parcel of this plot of
If you
land.
remember, there's a car like that, and the sort of half the cars were hanging over onto the amenity land.
And there was a couple of garages at the back, and then they were building something on the side, which I think was amenity land. So I've got no comments.
You don't need to read all my mind. Basically, reluctantly probably approve. It was one of those that.
Yeah, that comments last time.
I can't recall.
No objections last
I don't
time.
think we had any objections last time.
10 Linden.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had no objections.
Do we probably need to?
It's a good model for future applications, just confuse the hell out of everybody.
Okay, number 4, which is 222939, which is 21 Austin Road. Household application, single story roof extension, flat roof, side extension, pitched roof along with changes to fenestration following demolition of a single story rear and side extension. The application states no trees, but I understand from one of the neighbours that there are a few neighbours' comments on the website objecting, but there are some trees which could actually fall onto the property, assuming they've pulled them down already. The existing side installation has been replaced. It remains as 4 bedrooms. Side extension is larger than the previous application, 221830, that was refused due to reason of its excessive scale and bulky form and appearance. The proposed 2-story side extension would result in a cramped form of development and would be overdevelopment of a modest plot in a corner location. The proposal detracts from both the appearance of the host dwelling and the balance of the semi-detached pair. And on my own, that's what I've taken off the previous application rejection. All I've said really, it appears that this house is already nearly twice the original size. Increasing it, and I don't think that this application is much different, just a little bit different. It's not a great deal different from the previous one. So I've got other comments. One is refuse, same reasons as before. A comment which says no objections raised last time. We did have a heated discussion last time and we weren't in full agreement with. I think Carol certainly. So I'm not sure how we carry on with this one. I didn't like the last one, but.
Again, what did we say?
Didn't, we said no objections, I'm pretty certain.
Yeah,
This was the one where I remember I was concerned about the meaty space. So there were more, less and less going.
It was on the end of a block,
The end,
wasn't it?
yes.
On the corner.
So
Yes,
it impacted both Austin and Fitzroy.
yes, that's right. It's gone from being a small semi to an extended semi to another, to an even further extended semi, to becoming Buckingham Palace.
It's different, there isn't much difference between this one and the previous applications, so we either sort of try and be consistent and say we have to do the same and rely on the borough to refuse it. And because I've looked at it and I don't think they've really addressed any of the issues that the borough refused it on. But there's always a danger that, well, we don't have that power anyway, we're just a consultee.
I think all they've done is to push the new extension back a little bit from the front.
It's not material though, is it? At all.
Possibly but if I made a suggestion about the comment that we made, because I think I do agree. I mean, no objections raised last time with my comment. I was quite surprised. What about passing an observation that we don't think this has addressed the issues in the original refusal, rather than being inconsistent as a committee?
I think that's a good way forward then. So we keep our consistency, but
But
it's based on new information, which is what the borough council refused on. Yeah, I like it.
okay,
That's a good idea. Go along with that. Okay, super.
You should put it on the list of things to recruit. To refuse it. It's a good one.
Add it on the list.
I like that. Yeah, I'll remember that.
Okay.
Can you put Richard Skegg's name by that? So
222949, which is 128 House Drive, which is conversion of existing intended garage to a storage utility area, new rear extension across the rear, front extension to the box in the front to the same frontage line as the existing window. I've got 3 lots of comments, all of which is no comment, no objections, no objections. You happy with that one? Does anybody want to say anything about that one? No? Okay. 222972, which is 25 Henley Wood Road, which is an adjoining parish consultation. It's the early side of the railway and the 83290. Do we want to make any comments on that?
I'm just glad it's not in our side.
Was there up on Henleywood Road?
222984, which is 116 Coleman's Moor. Household application for proposed single-storey front extension to create a porch along with conversion of the garage to create habitable accommodation, changes to windows. I've commented it's a small 1 metre deep front porch and conversion of integral garage to accommodation. New window to replace part of the garage door. I've had no comments, no objections, and no objections. So everybody happy with that one?
Yeah.
Number 8 is 223007, which is 7 of the Ridgeway. Full application of the proposed subdivision of the site and erection of a 3-bedroom detached dwelling with associated access to parking following demolition of the existing detached garage. Previous application 221397 was refused. Now trying to squeeze a 3-bedroom detached house between 2 private road. Question, is it overdeveloped? Is it out of character? Other comments I've got: out of keeping with the neighbouring properties. The character of the houses in the road varies, but their sizes are compatible with their neighbours and the street scene. Parking design seems to be contrived. Overdevelopment of the site. If it was a 2-bed bungalow, I think it would be okay, but this is a lot of house in a small space. And WDC objected and WBC refused. I have looked at both applications and struggled to find any differences. Object on the same basis as before.
Having seen what we put before, I think that was fairly reasonable, wasn't it?
Interesting. I won't set it around, but just an amount of interest. This was the site plan, right? Of the first one. This is the site plan of the second one. They're identical. They've even got the same PVC/2457-3 on both of them. They are exactly the same size. Yeah, so
Okay, so the other
So whatever we said last time, we'll say again.
and
We can also add the additional comments that our comments from last time have not been addressed either. Based on what Richard said earlier on.
Now then, escape repast.
Okay, we'll move on. 223020 Tibbins Lane. Proposed erection of a single-storey rear extension, roof lanterns following demolition of the conservatory. I've said it's replacement of a rear conservatory with a new build linked to the house. Footprint remains the same apart from a small link to the current house with a new doorway. It's been pulling the extension a bit close to the house. No comment, no objections, no objections. Does anyone want to say anything about that one, or be happy with that one? Okay. Number 10 is 223022, which is 38 Norton Road. Single-storey rear extension, installation of a side roof light following demolition of an existing rear conservatory with changes to windows. I've said it's replace existing rear conservatory with a new 3-metre deep extension, approximately 1 metre deeper than the conservatory it replaces. Cloakroom window is replaced with a roof vent, so the cloakroom now becomes integral as opposed to on the outside wall. One neighbour concern regarding access for building works, which could well be justified. However, that's not necessarily a planning issue. So
that'll be dealt by a condition.
So
Any building matters or building access is always dealt with.
So I've got no comments, no objection, and no objections. You happy with that one?
Yeah.
42 Walmer Road. Single-storey side and rear extension, including internal modifications. Side extension to replace existing extension, but taking it closer to the boundary. Full width rear extension. No comments from the neighbour. I've got no comment, no objection, and no objections from other councillors. Anybody want to make any comments on that one? Okay. Next one is 223080, which is One Comic Way. Household application for the proposed two-storey side extension. And I've said this is a two-storey side extension to increase the size of the existing bedrooms and downstairs living accommodation. Complaints from neighbours and properties backing on about overbearing and loss of light. We've got a copy of the letter here. Someone in 125 Shackleton Way, backs onto the property. Comments, the proposal states boundary hedges to be removed. This will impact the street scene. The impact on the neighbour does not seem to be significant. I think the neighbour is some distance away from what I can see. Neighbour comment, but some distance, removal of hedge, possibly out of character, no real objection, to be honest, and no objections.
Can I comment on the hedge?
Yes.
If you go down there, you will see that it is so different to the existing street scene, even with the hedge, because it's the two like that and the rest are all like that. So I'm not sure whether a comment about it has impact on the street scene is valid, because it's just, because it's the two like that.
I think there's a couple of houses down there that have done a similar, I mean, not at that end of the way, but if you keep going. For me, I didn't particularly like it, which is not, and I know that sounds terrible. I was kind of almost looking for reasons to say, to sort of reject, and I thought, actually, you know what? Aside from a hedge, there's nothing there. And if that was me, I'm not sure I wouldn't want to do exactly the same thing. So I'm kind of like saying no real objection, to be honest.
My view is actually losing the hedge is sad, because it actually masks the two properties that are in there. But I could not turn that into a planning objection.
Yeah, I think losing the head down, just what Keith said really, but it's bringing the brick wall, that brick wall up to right next to the footpath, right next to the road, which I thought had an impact on the street scene. I think it's minimal how it affects neighbours, which is halfway. But I'm struggling to find a reason to object to that. I mean, maybe it's worth a comment. We don't want to lose trees, hedges, or whatever. But they can take that down, take that tomorrow.
Yeah.
The
Fence.
Get out of control.
So can I suggest that we have no objection, but it'd be nice if the environmental issues of the hedge were taken into account. Consideration given to any comments made by the neighbour.
loss of the smell of habitation.
Yeah. I think that neighbour's quite a way back to be impacted, but okay. Right, 223087 73 Butts Hill Road. Proposed erection of single window dormers and a single story side extension. Concerns from neighbour regarding loss of light. Dormer extension to first floor to create more of a house than a bungalow. This appears to be out of character of the street scene and other properties in the area. This creates one additional first floor bedroom. Other comments, the property looks to have already been extended. There is an adverse effect on the neighbour. There are quite a few bathrooms, 2 downstairs and 1 upstairs. No dormer on the rest of the row, out of character, question mark. And the types of properties along this stretch are an eclectic group of different styles, and number 65 has done exactly the same.
Well, I think it's out of character because of that little row. I think 65 is slightly bigger. It's a slightly different format house, isn't it?
Exactly the same.
Has it just been smashed about? That's the wrong word. Developed.
At least this one's got some big hedges around the front. The 65 hasn't. It's got rid of all its front lawn or whatever, obviously a long time ago, and all you've got is a wall and a hedge, and they've done exactly it's the same orientation, bungalow, and they've gone on both sides.
I think the impact on the neighbour is significant.
Yes.
I think we need to comment on that.
Yes, we do.
Everything else.
Certainly.
Yeah, I think that's something else I'm going to say. It's gone, but Yeah, no, we should do that. Oh, I know, looking at it, it looks as if it's already been extended. To extend again, I've no idea how much bigger it is, the footprint now than the original house. I think that ought to be taken. Getting a bit like top seats.
We are getting a lot, aren't we, of extensions after extensions?
It's cheaper to do that than actually sell up and move, basically.
Because I think originally you were only allowed to extend by a certain proportion, weren't you?
I think that rule is still in place.
But then is that a proportion of the extended house or a proportion of the original house?
You see, there's a lot of permitted development and whether you've taken up more than a certain amount of the land as well. There's a formula now, isn't there? It used to be really straight.
No, that's something different. What Philip's talking about is there was like, you take the original building and you can't do an accumulative expansion. And I thought it was around 65%, but on top, well, whatever the number is. And I think it probably is still there. But the trouble is, how do you work out what the original size was if it's 2 or 3 extensions behind, you know?
Would it be possible to put it, sorry, I can't, I think I was so blinded by the dormers. I failed to.
I can get Google Maps up as well if you need.
Yeah, well, I think just understanding a bit about the plot. You're right, because that next door is probably the original house, isn't it?
Google would be quite good if you.
But then you've got.
Fine.
Yeah,
Yeah, that looks right, doesn't it?
Very close to it. That's it.
Side road turn.
This.
yeah, is that this? It's the one with
I think
the
that's
brown roof, isn't it? No, it's not.
You think it's that?
It's that one, isn't it?
I think it's
Should be able to see from.
Yeah, because it's got a little porch bit up front on the plan. Yeah, that's that, isn't it? Maybe we just put a concern down about.
I think the impact on the neighbour and the increase on the original.
That way, officers have got our thoughts.
A lot for the neighbour to look at.
I mean, yeah, my gut feeling was it will probably get approved, but
Can you put up the neighbour's complaint? Sorry. I think they're talking about loss of light and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And to be perfectly honest, I'm not qualified in any way to make a comment on one way or the other.
yeah, loss of light they were complaining about.
I think, yeah, and my only reservation about that was they aren't bunched up, are they?
There's some distance between
I think it's going to be, don't know, we shall see. But yeah,
Only problem you've got is that you've got those trees and things in between the two properties, so
oh,
perhaps
actually, yeah, it's closer than I could.
we can't quite see. Can't quite see.
Which side is the complainant? That side or the other side?
71, so it should be.
It's that one. Which is having the building work done. Not that that's.
I don't know when this was last. April 2021.
So they've done their building work by now, probably.
I think that's the proposal anyway.
Could get over too far from animal producing.
Luxury, people love it.
Bathroom, I think it should be labelled galvanized.
no rules about how many bathrooms you have.
But down the bottom, you see, it looks like it's a.
Suppose if one has a week.
It might be incorrectly named, as you say, because they do at least show the suite in there, but they don't,
I think that's what it is.
which is odd.
Personally, I have no objections to it on the basis of 65. Has happened as a precedence. And it's not as if it's bungalow, 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 bungalow. It's not. You know, if you keep going up the road, you'll see 65.
This one.
Yeah,
Yeah, 'cause that's why I thought it was a different style of house, isn't it?
see that. I think there is a difference.
It's been extended out the front.
Yeah, it's got a porch, the other one.
I suppose they're a bit reset, but it doesn't really make any difference. I think, when we make a point about the neighbours' concerns,
Should be taken into consideration. We've got that off the shelf.
yeah, that's it, that's the bakery.
Me, it's way before me.
Okay. And finally, then it's 223170, which is 46 Fairwater Drive. Which is a single-storey front extension, and I've said it's increasing the existing width and depth of the front porch to create a cloakroom, depth to increase by 900 mil, and the width by about 20%. Other councillors have said no comment, no objection, and no objection. So are we happy with that one? Yep. Super, okay. So that's the end of current planning applications. And take the planning decisions on page 15. I can comments on 52 Mannock Way. Was that the one that you?
Yeah.
So was this the final decision?
Yep.
Do we know why? Do we know what the final?
Primarily because there is this thing called a buffer zone for any woodlands area. I'm probably using the wrong terminology, and the buffer zone has to be 3 meters to protect the ancient woodland. That's the name, ancient woodlands in there. And the reality is there's no trees within that, but there's a rule that says you cannot build within 3 meters, and it doesn't matter whether the ancient woodlands is high quality, there or not there.
Right.
It's a rule. So, you know, officers could not, but, well, they could, but it was never going to happen.
But the other properties have obviously got their back gardens within 3 meters of the action. So there
This is the one with the bit of
this is
land owned by Taylor Wimpey.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is it or isn't it?
Yeah, that was what was painted up.
I've seen the deeds.
But they weren't responding to requests to sell it to the owners, were they?
They were,
Yes, they
no,
didn't know if it was theirs or not.
I'll go through, over a pint, I'll go through
It
it.
doesn't actually matter, it's been
No.
rejected.
It's been rejected. And so therefore the family are looking to move out of the area, which is sad, but that's the way it works.
And then they've approved 173 Colwardsmore despite our objections. The rest they were satisfied, but and still the case. Agenda item 6A is prior approval submission. It's just really to note that 36 Wyndham Crescent application for prior approval of erection of single-story rear extension. And for Bowfield Close, prior approval of another erection of a single-story rear extension. Just notes. Item 7 applications for works to trees. Do you want me to go through those? Are we happy to take those as read?
Yeah.
It's interesting, I think, on, if you look on Appendix 7C, page 17, where we've got a note with regard to TPO orders.
Oh, that's my soapbox moment, isn't it?
Yes.
So can I pitch this one then? Because I'm not sure what I want is the truth of it. But my take is that if you look at my glorious map on page 17, the red boundary, which rings the South Lake Estate, effectively encompasses TPO 3 1951. So every tree from sapling to mighty oak within that boundary is subject to a tree protection order, which is odd because there are individually named trees within that as well. So my argument effectively is this, without making you wade through this. If that TPO was working properly, we wouldn't require individual TPOs on trees within that South Lake zone. I think there's probably an argument for protecting the lake, and I think that probably needs its own TPOing and things like that. But when I've done a little straw poll of neighbours, and not scientifically, just asking people that I pass them by, did you know, there's a TPO in the area? And they went, what? No. One of my neighbours knew that there was a tree protection order on every tree in their garden from sapling to mighty oak. And even a few of them said, oh, does that mean I shouldn't have had that tree pruned? Yeah, absolutely. So my argument is the TPO in its current format doesn't work. It used to be significantly bigger and it encompassed the whole of the Bullmarsh estate, which was obviously removed when they built the new housing there. Similarly, up towards Reading Road somewhere where they did some more construction. Again, every time that there's any kind of building work that gets removed, people don't know about it, so it's not working. And with those individually named trees, I'm also going to make the argument that it's not working from a council point of view. My big risk, I think, is that people that don't know about it will go and cut down a tree and land themselves in hot water. And it also, when you look at the volume of TPOs in other areas around, I'm sorry, I should have blown up my map a little bit. Yeah, the actual concentration of individual trees, TPOs, isn't quite as high within this boundary because, of course, there is the blanket TPO. I think my argument is that it's kind of neither protecting the trees nor protecting the residents. And I've written a few suggestions in there, but really what I'm asking is, could I get the committee support to write to Woking and say, could this be examined to find a more suitable tree in that? Because I don't think this is working. And again, when you look to, if you keep going, sorry, I've named appendixes that clearly are differently numbered than this, but I have included the original TPO from 1951, which is in classic 1951 legalese, and again, is about as clear as mud to anyone that stumbles across it. So that's really my pitch. Is, could I have this committee support for this committee to write to Woking and ask that they review it, because I don't think it's doing what it's agreed to do.
It would have been put in when they were developing it all.
Yeah. Oh, well, it is. Yes.
It's a standard thing that happens. But what should happen is over the years, you then refine it. So you only put TPOs on trees of very good quality and strong amenity value. So I would fully endorse, particularly since you're doing the work. I would fully endorse following up on that.
With it too. But where did you get this boundary line from?
It's from the Woking Borough Council website, which when you go to the have I got a TPO on my property page, I discovered this because I wanted to trim my silver birch, which is lethal and garden. I discovered, because I'm a responsible person, of course, I've gone, have I got any tree protection orders on my property? And the answer was yes, I have. Okay, fine. But there is a TPO map, which is actually really very good on the difficult bit with it is if you haven't spotted that this great big boundary is a TPO when you go to it, you would be well forgiven for not realizing that there is actually one on your house.
I just think that the boundary extends further than you've written, that was all.
Oh, I think it used to.
It goes up
Take-
to Woodlands Avenue and it encompasses the whole of Roslyn Road and also Silver Fox.
Well, we might add that to the comment then, that we're not actually sure that the TPO map is
Hmm.
quite correct. But again, when you look at the original TPO, it's got a map, I think, or I'm not sure I include the map there. The map ain't great because it's a brilliant old map of Woodley before anything was built. Because as Keith said,
Whole of Kingfisher Drive as well.
yeah, and again, I knew that that originally was part of it because I think they took that when they deleted.
Drawing that does.
But anyway, I think if we're good with that, if I draft a few ideas of how that request might go.
Here on page 18, problems and risks, these are identified by you.
Yes, that was me attacking it from a slightly business case point of view before deciding to myself actually what this needed was a human point of view. But yeah.
All of this goes up.
Yes, carry on.
Yeah, thanks. I'm all for preserving habitat for wildlife, you know that, but to have to go to the planning office when you want to prune a fruit tree is just stupid. I mean, nobody, I don't think anybody, certainly not, I've never, nobody's mentioned it to me, and if people knew it existed, they would hold it with derision, which is not what we want. So, yeah, this got to be changed. I think we do need to sort of, you know, decent trees are preserved, but, you know, this as it stands is stupid.
Yeah, I think that's my thing, is I really want the good trees to be preserved. You know, there's a beautiful maple tree in, that you had to have a TPO request to cut in Malone Park, for example. But again, how do you compare that to a scraggly sort of, you know, silver birch that's leaning over in somebody's back garden or in the corner of the park, when they're actually at the end of their life? If they were saplings in 1951, that silver birch has got 20 years max left on its lifespan before it's going to keel over anyway. So I think my worry there is that somebody at the council says, yeah, that's silly, and just puts a line through it. I actually want to avoid doing. I think it needs to have some onus put on developing what those TPOs look like and what the criteria might be for phasing out of it. But I'll throw a few ideas together and bounce them around the.
It might be something that eventually might be worth putting on the website as well, just as
Well-
information, really, for residents, because they probably don't know, and you probably
They don't.
even think that the whole area is a TPO rather than just individual trees. That's good. Okay, thank you for doing that, Richard. Okay, can we move on now to budgetary control, page 39? Just to bring us up to date as to where we are. Comments on that, or is it more of a noted, really?
So, question for Matt, when do we get the next round of bids? And is it this council that decides on that, or does that bounce to the next?
Grants come, I think it's January's meeting prior to setting the budgets, which are approved by full council in February.
Have we had, so presumably soon we'll be putting out a call for people to do their submissions.
We've definitely already contacted those that have previously applied to remind them of the closing date.
But not beyond that.
I don't think we've done any PR item. I can definitely put a note.
Yeah, we'll check. I don't think we have yet, but we have done previously.
In the past,
that,
I
yeah,
think.
yeah.
Because it's so easy to get into a nice little comfy, you know, we'll just give the money to the people who've always had it in the past. And whilst that might be the right thing to do, I think we need to provide the opportunities, like First Aid Charity, for instance, came in. That's a new one for this year, which is a very good charity.
Definitely get an item out, definitely.
Okay, thank you. We move on then to item 9 on page 40. Application for variation to a gaming machine permit in the Chequers Public House. 10D at Chequers Public House.
Actually, I wonder if it's prejudicial interest, but we do tend to go there after a meeting for a pint.
Do you stick a pound in the fruity day?
No.
There you go.
No way, I don't touch gambling machines at all. Wish they weren't there. I don't think that's a prejudicial interest. They've got no financial gain on it.
No, I don't.
You
I'm quite happy to just let you decide.
got any objection to it or? No? So we're happy to not have an issue with that one.
Presumably, is this another one I've got already, another gaming machine, is there anything else? That's about
It just
Increase it 4 to 5 machines.
Yeah. So it looked like the replacement of a couple of one extra one or two extra. Item 10, payment license applications is Greg wanting to change the hours that they're open outside. I was a bit concerned about this because with the amount of flats and with some more flats being envisaged to be built there, I was a bit concerned with the noise outside. I've got no problems with them opening in. A lot of rowdy people outside at the early hours of the morning.
Rowdy people don't go to Greg's.
Why not?
Oh,
Who does go to Greg's? I do. Oh,
Greg there forgets are lovely. From a practical perspective, if someone goes in there, because it is open at this time, you know, and they aren't allowed to use the seats outside, they're only going to go 50 feet away and sit on the seats that are there. And so the comment about, or your concern about rowdiness, etc., will be there anyway. And you could potentially argue that constraining them within that area is probably better. I don't know. I'm ambivalent to it, to be perfectly honest.
it's just noise because people are in the flats above, isn't it?
I think we were supposed to have commented by the 27th of October anyway.
Yeah, as it says here, I had 2 responses. One, no objections, and Councillor Witt's comment. So we sent a reply to working just objecting to the proposed earlier start time from 7 to 6:30 on Monday to Saturday on the outside seating. And they've noted that.
Item 11, Twyford Parish Council undertaking a 6-week consultation in neighbourhood planning regulations and their proposed neighbourhood plan. I don't know whether we want to make a response to that or.
Just noted.
Everybody happy with that? Have a similar comment to item 12, but in Hampstead undertaking a 6-week consultation. Just want to note that on as well. Move on to item 13. This is to look at the local government boundary commission review. We ask whether we want to provide a response on behalf of the council.
It's interesting because the Wokingham Borough Council have already approved the submission to the commission, which has options. So for instance, for Woodley, you've got an officer's option, and then we've got an alternative option, courtesy of Carol. Very, very similar, minor differences. That's already been lodged. The LGBC consultation opens on the 8th of November. So any individual or any organisation can comment on it. Parties will, I'm sure your party will, and I know my party will, and I will, personally.
Yeah, I think we've sort of gone past this almost. It's been overtaken by that proposal from Woking Borough to the Boundary Commission. I also think it's quite a difficult thing to comment on as a town council. It's much more about people's views of their own communities and members to agree on a reply. So I think maybe the response, that we shouldn't respond, but maybe to highlight the point, there will be a review on those standards to be decided that there's a good case.
Can I make a suggestion that we promote the consultation from LGBC that's starting on the 8th widely? That
Sorry, excuse me, here is written date until November 7. Are you saying November 8?
the 7th of November was the work that was going on by the Borough Council, but that went, the final submission went to the Borough Council last Thursday last week, right? Which is clearly before that, and that's what they submitted. So the 7th of November is a silly date anyway, but that's now been submitted to the Local Government Boundary Commission. They will be opening their own consultation on the 8th. And I can't remember whether it's 3 weeks or 2 weeks or whatever to respond. I know your party will be responding, my party will be responding, your party will be responding, and all of us can respond individually. And what I was going on to ask, if Matthew could do this, is actually extract the Woodley pages, the 2 options, and circulate that to all councillors, just that bit, with the reminder that they can comment from the 8th. Both of them.
The only thing I say at the moment is we as officers haven't seen that information from Wokingham. The information that's included here is from the LGBCE website, which is the please give us information.
If you go on to the agenda for the last full council meeting,
yeah,
you will find the document there, and it has got those maps.
What I can do is get fully prepped as well to make sure that as soon as the 8th opens, have a look on the LGBC website and check that that matches exactly what has been submitted, and then circulate it as soon as possible on that day. I'll make a note of my diary. We can make sure that councillors are looking at what is actually in their proposal, just in case they.
Because I think all 25, well, 24 now, 24 councillors of town council really owe it to residents to look and comment. As I said, the difference between the 2 proposals for Woodley are the differences are not significant.
I think what the best thing then is if I keep a keen eye on the 8th for those information, extract the bits that are relevant to us, forward it to everyone here, and also work with Anushka to get some publicity that we can send up as soon as possible.
Okay, thank you. Item 14, Thames and Children's in Bloom Awards. More information to be presented at a future meeting.
Can I say something along this? I was just going to say, I haven't brought anything, obviously supplied anything to this meeting. What I have managed to do is at least have a look at some submissions from other councils to look at what the portfolio might look like, try and get an idea of what might be involved. We've got some time before submissions would need to be in. If we were looking at next year, there's lots of categories that it's split up between different things. We've already got the town centre submission and the Friends of Woodford Park submission. What we would have is a town portfolio submission, which is much more overarching, and it's probably got more scope for forward movement, engagement with schools and all those sorts of things going forward. So I think it's probably something we can do initially. It will then require a lot more attention going forwards in terms of improving, and you don't want to lose whatever scoring you get. It's all about continuous improvement and all that good stuff. So long and short of that is I can bring something back, do a bit more research on it, and I think it's something we can do. I think it'll tie in with elements of green flag and some of the other things we do, including our climate objectives in the climate action plan. So there's quite a lot of things that would link up with it. There's a chunk of work there, but that's probably not a reason to not do it.
Can I just ask, sorry,
Yeah, it's just that basis last time, which is why it's here. Looking at the submissions at the award ceremony, they were varied and numerous, and it didn't have to be a very big area that they were talking about, it to be a huge scheme like the town trail or whatever. I mean, that would be, a good idea. It tends to be on themes. So some people were looking at the sustainability themes, some were looking at historic stuff, et cetera, et cetera. It does need more looking at, but I think the theme is what you just said. It's no good just doing it and saying, oh, I've got that, or might sit back. It needs to be something that's going to be sustainable and will sort of carry on improving whichever area it is. But the most important thing is to involve local residents. It should be driven by the town council. But maybe not. There's certainly some of the awards. There were residents groups that got together and looked after it, whatever. There's probably people already doing stuff out there, but it hasn't been noticed entered them.
They're not promoting themselves enough, are
Because they don't know about it, or they're probably a bit, they don't want to shout the rooftops, but I think there's sort of it's quite a broad range of things. So, yeah.
any word of warning I would say, and you mentioned schools, for instance, the town centre already engages schools.
Yeah.
And so we've got Friends of Woodford Park, who have already been doing this for several years. We've got the TCMP, have been doing it for several years. We haven't, and we've effectively sort of relied on those two organisations to participate. What I would be very concerned about, if we then start doing things and it becomes a competition, not deliberately, but by accident, we start competing with them. So what I would suggest we ought to do is, when you bring stuff back, we set up maybe a small group of people to act as a coordinating group. So I would suggest Brian, obviously the town centre manager, because he drives that one. I would suggest David Provins, because he drives the Friends of Woodford Park. And then someone from here, one of our councillors, or even maybe just allowing an officer to do it, and we potentially oversee it, just to make sure we get that coordination, because we can do damage. If we don't get that, and these judges come in, they'll sort of say, well, hang on a minute, you just said about this, but I've just heard that from those people over there. And that would not be a good position to be in. Does that make sense?
I can understand that. Yes.
I'm sure David will definitely be involved or want to be involved, and so would Brian.
I certainly want to be I've been involved in it for the last 2 years, for years.
Don't look at my green fingers.
Don't even have to be green.
Grey, concrete. So it looks like we've got a volunteer maybe to. But it's something to think about, and then we have to formally agree to do that.
Okay, are we? Item 15 is to note some Sandford Park restoration works is soon to start. Page 46.
Chair, can I just have my usual moan about no bridge? I could spend money, which is great to see. I'm not objecting to restoration, but only people could access across the widen the community.
The only way that's going to happen is compulsory purchasing the land.
Does this link up to that bridge that we were talking about? Just-
No, yeah.
Right, okay.
Sun done.
So maybe we should repeat that comment.
Alex had something to say.
Oh. Alex, sorry.
Yeah, on a practical point, very nice map, it's missing something. Missing a northing,
Listen,
a northing. When it's north, north is not at the top of this page. Not here. North is not the top, it's portrait. No, north is not there. North is actually that way. You've got to turn it upside down. So it's actually, you actually in the right direction, so you can actually understand where the map is on. Because I was very confused by it initially. So you need to turn it around. So you have a very nice map, which I've narrowed with north on it.
do we wish to make any comments so with regards to seems to overlook the fact that it's like a bridge?
Wokin's response was, we had quite a clear response from the MonMat, didn't we? And it was an item we kind of stopped conversing on because they've been quite clear on the matter.
Yes,
I don't think it's worth saying anything. I just got to keep batting that drum.
yeah, it's the landing of the bridge on the other side. The owner of the land are refusing it. And there is no legal way other than to compulsory purchase. And I'm not sure whether that actually would work anyway, because you can't just do it. There's got to be good, solid reason for doing it.
Otherwise, it's a good job for someone to put a ferry in, I suppose. Chain ferry. Right, okay. We'll move on to item 16, community speed watch. The David Bragg of the updates on that, so right. Not going to rely on to so. Item 17, early station footbridge. If you look on page 47. Matt Roder has got involved, and there was an article in the front of the Reading Chronicle, whatever it's called, last week. Didn't seem to get to the Woking Chronicle, which is probably where it should have been, but there was an article in the Reading Chronicle at the front with regards to trying to persuade the rail authorities to put their hands into their pockets to help the financing.
It was good publicity. Even if it didn't say much, it
My
was.
understanding is a decision's been made by the Borough Council not to build and to continue the maintenance.
Yeah, I think that was what, it was either a pendant to that item or article on the internet, but we shall see. I think it would be very
Well,
depressing.
no, they have.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think
in writing that they've made that decision that they're not going to rebuild.
I think there's the, what's the word? My cynicism says that there are various levels of maintaining a bridge, and it will not be the aspirational end of the spectrum. But we shall see. I think
Basically, it's a multi-million-pound project, and the money isn't there to do it.
It costs a lot more than the 8 that they've suggested.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's going to be used, because I think the ramps, the length of the ramps, as I've said before, is just too much for anybody disabled in a wheelchair. They're not going to start walking 500 meters just to get across a bridge. It's practical.
Well, absolutely not. As long as we keep our bridge for the foreseeable future, that's fine.
But it is a bridleway, so there is some.
They can move the right of way, very simple. And they move the bus.
Or some underpass. Scared of us cabin kids.
You're going to do a lady diver.
Well, not the enough, I don't know. But yeah. Yeah, well, I don't know. I've got some tough there.
Item 18 then, anybody got any community issues?
Oh, yeah. Oh, no.
No report.
Sorry, I'll speak to David. Sorry, yes, community issues, item 8. No, okay. Move on to item 19, highway issues. Okay.
I'll just give you an update on the car parking charges. It's long saga, running saga of the car parking charges. So last Tuesday, the call-in that was made on the basis of the process was flawed, according to the WBC Constitution, went to the scrutiny committee, extensively discussed, and at the end of the day, they decided not to refer it back to the executive to review. Last Thursday, a petition was lodged with 4,638 signatures, one of the biggest petitions that have been lodged. So that's been lodged to actually say to stop the changes. There will be, that triggers a debate at the next full council meeting, 30-minute debate where all sides will be, or councillors will be able to put their points of view. And then the key thing that is that one of the complaints was there was no consultation. I think everybody accepts there was no consultation. And what came out of the scrutiny meeting is that there will be a post-decision consultation, and it's called the traffic regulation order. First time it's ever, certainly in my history, and I did highways for 7 years, that it's ever been used this way. But when you make changes like this in highways, you can't just do it as a council and then implement. There is a legal requirement to issue a traffic regulation order. That legal requirement is for that TRO to be published in a newspaper. Talk about being up to date. So it will be published probably on the working paper in all those legal things, by page 93 or something. And that calls for a 21-day window for comments from, and they're saying that is going to be the consultation. I'm trying to find out when they're publishing. I've been waiting for nearly a week to find out when that's going to be published. I haven't had an answer yet. So the town council may well want to, I know what the TCMI will do, or TCMP, for obvious reasons, because we've got universal complaints from almost every retail unit, every restaurant saying this is going to kill our business, and that's the evening charges. I think the town council potentially should consider a view, because it will potentially have major impact. But I don't know if anybody else thinks on that.
I mean, I've obviously got very strong views about this. And I think consultation and research have been from the beginning my bugbear on it. And if I'm being honest, the kind of daytime charges bit, kind of, I think, and don't get me wrong, I don't agree in any way with the levels at which they're set in Woodley or the blanket charging. I think if it had come back and said we're going to catch up the inflation since the last increase or whatnot, I might have gone, well, these are hard times. But I think my difficulty is around the kind of arbitrary application without research on tolerances. I not fathom how Woking was being compared to Basingstoke, Bracknell for that matter. But yeah, on Reading, in the research element, I use the word research as this term, element when, I mean, you can't compare, you can barely compare Wokingham to Fleet, to be perfectly honest, in a town centre. And I don't mean that to be insulting to Wokingham, but I think actually if you line those two towns up, they're pretty similar footprint, quality of shops, that kind of stuff. And I think that was a quid to park for an hour. So I've kind of got big issues around that. And I think one thing I'm quite keen, if we respond as a council, is we kind of unpack the various elements of it with a very clinical approach without suggesting what the right or wrong outcome is, because I think there's plenty of that politically around the spectrum, and I don't think it's helpful to change the minds of people whose minds need changing to approach it like that from this type of thing. And I think there's a time for politics, and this kind of is a slightly skewed way of looking at it. And I think, you know, so for me, there's the application of the costs and what they should be. And, you know, I'm not going to sit there and argue they shouldn't go up at all. But I would argue that this level and this mechanism is right. But I think Keith picked that up there, that evening charge bit is the real burn. And I think that puts some businesses in jeopardy. And I've said it before, the business rates that will get lost if those businesses go under will far outweigh any increase in parking revenue. You know, everyone will just go and pick up their pizza from M&W's.
Yeah, I know your view because.
Yeah.
Could I make a suggestion? And your point about the politics is well made. So I would rule myself out. I would potentially rule Carol out because we are the two heavyweight politicians here. I wasn't talking about your appearance. That we asked Richard to write effectively a draft, like you've done a brilliant job, by the way, on that's how you get people to do things. To do a draft that basically could be the response from the town council.
I mean, I'd be very happy to do that, to be truthful. And I think I spent the last couple of weeks trying to remove myself from the emotion of that, if that makes sense. And I suppose if I did that, I'd ask it to be received in the same way in a kind of clinical business case, because that's how I would approach that. And I think it would be important for me, if anything would be submitted, that it kind of does have a fairly universal agreement within the group that it's acceptable that we as a council, as representatives of Woodley, rather than a particular party or personal interest, are promoting this as our concern as a town, rather than as a council or as an individual.
I'm all for that.
And then, sorry, just very quickly, Richard, I'm quite happy for you to do it blind. You know, on my behalf, I don't need to see it because I respect you enough, because I've seen how you operate, that I will be I'm confident that you will portray it in the way you want.
That's kind of you, but I think I would like everybody to have their say. Yeah. Sorry, Bastian.
Yeah, I think before writing our response, we should understand what is background of this decision, and then we should contact Wokingham Borough Council. There were some briefings in the past as well. Someone from there should come here and explain from officers and saying why this decision was taken, what is its background, was it necessary, or it could be avoided. Unless we understand all these factors, I think we should keep hold on our response. And during last 3.5 years, whenever there was any question, whenever there was any criticism, someone every time said, it's easy to criticize and it's very difficult to suggest a solution. So where is solution then?
Yeah, so
All I was going to say is that all those questions you just raised, right, were raised at the scrutiny. Have a look at the YouTube of the overview of the Scrutiny Management Committee, and all of those were raised. They were raised by a retailer here, they were raised by Brian, and there was no answers. There was absolutely no, they couldn't tell us, those of us who were participating, they couldn't tell us how much it cost to run the car parks. They couldn't tell us where the deficiencies was. They just kept on saying, we have an income for the service, highways for parking services, that it was, they couldn't tell you where it was. which car
Where
park.
these questions were asked?
At the overview scrutiny committee, management committee meeting last Tuesday at
Wokingham
Wokingham
Borough
Borough.
Council.
Eventually, what was teased out were, and again, I advise, don't take my word on it, have a look, because I know you might look at your YouTube.
I will send you a YouTube link in which Chief Finance Officer is explaining why this decision was taken and what were your views about same person. I'm talking about financial officer during past 3 or 4 years.
Right.
At that time, his opinion was dominating, acceptable, and we were
In
told
that same meeting, the executive member for highways conceded that the off-street car parks, like all these, are running on average at 90% of the capacity pre-pandemic. All right, 90%. They further conceded, and it's all on YouTube, that actually Woodley car parks is even better, which is not unusual, is higher than 90%. What eventually came out is what's causing the problem is the park and rides. So we've had two, one has been shut for putting the decking on. One has not actually opened. One has had the bus service removed. And one, the only one really operating is Mere Oak. Mere Oak and Winnersh are actually owned and run jointly and was funded or jointly by Reading Borough Council and Woking Borough Council. And it was funded by the Local Enterprise Partnership on behalf of Reading Borough Council. All right. So the issue is those park and rides are not making money. They're running about 25% of capacity. And most people know that's well, it's not reasonable, but that is probably absolutely spot on. The car parks that we have here and elsewhere are having to take up that slack. And that's where the losses are. All right.
yeah, that's what I'm saying, that Chief Financial Officer should be contacted. He can explain, is this decision of officers or is this decision of some other persons?
It was a decision of the executive, the political executives, all the decisions. When Conservatives were in control, it was the Conservative executives who make the decision. What officers do is make advice. So there is.
And that's what I'm saying. What is his advice? What are his views about this? That's what I'm saying.
His views that there is a shortfall in income of 600,000 to 800,000.
You will find that out if you listen to the YouTube.
You won't, because there is no breakdown of the loss. So anyway,
I think that's kind of my partial point, is because I think if I write something, I want it to be as a town just solely looking at the effects on the town, not the broader Wokingham piece, because it might even be that we say, well, do you know what, there is a tolerance for those daytime rates in Woodley because it's a popular, vibrant town. I mean, I would be willing to listen to that argument. I'm not sure I could be convinced of it, but I think that there would be a case to be made. And I just think it's around some of that evening stuff and really changing the model and because that really does change how the town trades. And I think that would be my focus, not on the whys, the whats, the where have yous, just to say, look, actually, we're a town, this could have a detrimental effect. We're open to suggestions, but we don't necessarily think this is the solution. I think that would be my gambit if we did that, because I'm all argued out on it. And I think I'm trying to pick up practical rather than confrontational. That's
Quite happy to work with you if you want.
but I'll draft something up over the next day or two. Not day or two, never get it done this week, but over the weekend.
thank you.
Move on to item 20, then we should have had the ME2 club newsletter of the CCB e-bulletins. And if you haven't had them, obviously just drop a note to Matthew, and he'll send you a further copy.
Can I just ask a quick question? Have we got Matthew for our community awards? That was a quid pro quo, if you remember.
He is available, it is in his diary.
What's his name?
Matt Allwright.
Matt Allwright, who did the awards last time, and he was absolutely superb. He brought a level of professionalism as well as they.
Yes, he did.
Okay. Any ideas for any future agenda items? Are we happy with what we've got? We bring the car park and everything. Just make sure that the next meeting, highways issues includes a car park. Suggestions for publicity in the website.
We're going to mention the TPO and the.
Yeah.
You won't me?
Yeah.
Oh, and the consultation when it pops up, but that might be.
In the TPO for South Lake is probably worry people.
It may be that we should have a message to go with that is a bit, don't panic, but I don't know.
Panic Mr. Mannering.
It would appear that since 1951 has been a TPO in this area.
Did you know? You could have loved yourself with £5,000 fine or 3 months in jail.
I realised that was my birthday present. That's when I was born.
Oh, Keith, I mustn't say anything.
Say anything you love.
Item 23 then, we've got 23A, 53B. Enforcement notice 269A Headley Road East. Possible use as a house of multiple occupation. 34 Weevil Drive, trees, the TPO. 53 Woodlands Avenue not being built in accordance with the plan. 12 Grays Crescent, extended porch structure at front of building onto council land. 93 London Bridge. Check on compliance with EN 1458. Everybody know what that is?
I think it should say check on compliance, and I would assume EN is an enforcement reference. Sense, wouldn't it?
Then the enforcement closures, 53 Woodlands, large building, rear garden, the application submitted. 10 Linden Road, additional brick garages outbuilding erected to full length of garden, application submitted. 17 Duffield, camper van on site being used as habitable accommodation without PP, no breach. Schoolhouse, 11 Duffield Road, historical notice served 16/3/2009. I don't know what that means.
It's likely to be some sort of internal process where they found something old and had to put it on the system, so it automatically comes up on their reports.
And then 9 Linden Road, an unauthorised double-storey extension built without PP and other, it says.
I've seen this other coming in now. Can you provide us and find out what does other mean?
It will be individual for each one. Do you want me to find out for each one that comes up? I know it's not many. Other tends to mean they're using another process.
What I think it will be, they used to use a phrase called expediency or not expedient. And not expedient were meant basically that yes, they're in breach, but it's a minor thing, so it's not actually worth pursuing, like an application or whatever. And I just wonder if some officer has decided that that is actually a bit alarming and have changed it to other. So could you just ask, I would not on all the other ones, just take this one and ask, what does this mean? Is it unique to each one or whatever? Because it's a bit meaningless.
Yeah, I think I asked them the question about it before, and I'm sure, because the not expedient has still appeared on them, and I'm sure they've said other is a way of them where they clear out an enforcement because it's being dealt with by another department internally, not under enforcement, but it's not one of their key codes that they've got to move it off. I'll have a check through and see if I can find that record, because I'm positive I asked for it. If I can't find it, I'll also go back on this one anyway and say, what is it? Because one of the things I can do when it comes up, because we only get this one per month, is on those others, just to check why that is there as other, because there might be a whole variety of reasons. And if it's helpful to find out the specifics.
I'm afraid my scepticism of WBC officers coming through. Very easy to say other.
I think it's because they've got codes on their system, which is their way of, they have to do so, yeah.
Thank you.
Interesting to know how one gets away with a double-storey extension built without planning permission. So because
Committee to develop.
they are.
Because we don't know how big it is, do we?
You can't do double story. PD is only single story. And it's usually going out the back, you know, you can go 3 meters or whatever it is.
If you're a detached house southwardly facing the full moon, you can settle that.
So that's the other.
Oh yeah, that's it, yeah. It was an equinox when they filled out the form, so.
Right, well, that concludes the agenda. Thank you, everybody.
Okay.